Hi, my name is Drew Colclasure, and I'm currently an elementary education major at Northern Illinois University. I went ahead and made this memoir showcasing my passion for art, music, and all things wacky. This memoir is dedicated to friends everywhere. Our story begins in a foggy village in the early days of America. The year was 1622, 1 year after the first Thanksgiving. They say when the Pilgrims first ventured over here from England, they brought with them all kinds of superstitions. Old wives' tales and ghost stories were often the entertainment of choice late at night in the village. Come morning, most folks just carried on with their day, paying little to no mind about the superstitious tales that floated around the campfire late at night. That was until one day, a strange man came to the village. The stranger wore a dark brown cloak, had a shaggy silver beard, and a deep crimson scar that ran from his right eye to his lower neck. A lot of the villagers were frightened of the strange man, and some insisted that the stranger be run out of town. "Bones," the strange man uttered. "I'm looking for my bones." "We don't have no bones here," replied one of the townsmen. "It's best you get lost before we string you up for disturbing the peace," shouted another townsman. "Bones," replied the stranger once more. "I merely come looking for my bones." "We said we ain't got none of your bones," shouted one of the townsmen as he threw a rock at the stranger. Thump! The rock hit the ground, and the stranger had mysteriously vanished. That night, and over the coming days, the entire village looked for that strange old man, but they never turned up any evidence that he was ever even there. Until one day, a mysterious turkey came into town, wrapped in a dark brown cloak, a silver set of feathers below his beak, and a crimson scar on his right eye. "Bones," the turkey spoke. "I merely come looking for my bones. The bones that were discarded after you ate me during the first Thanksgiving." That night, the village burned red with flames, until nothing remained of the pilgrims who stole the stranger's bones. They say the mysterious turkey still haunts the woods at night, looking for his bones. Legend has it that Mr. Colclasure? "Mr. Colclasure? Mr. Colclasure?" said a man in a purple vest. Wait, the man in the purple vest looks an awful lot like my math teacher, Mr. Meyer. Suddenly I realized that I had been daydreaming and my entire class was now staring at me. I could feel their hot eyes burning into the back of my head. "Mr. Colclasure, if you wouldn't mind coming to the front of the class and figuring out the problem on the board." I slowly stood up, ignoring the snickering behind me, and begrudgingly slunk to the chalkboard. As I made my way down the aisle of desks, the bell began to ring, and I decided to change my course towards the door. "Sorry, Mr. Meyer, gotta go. Can't be late for home ec." I was lying. I wasn't even in home ec. I just knew I didn't want to be in math class any longer than I needed to. I didn't even hang around long enough to hear Mr. Meyer's reply. I was out of there like Great Gonzo from a cannon. As I made my way down the hall, I heard my friend Rayma yelling after me, "Drew, yo, wait up!" Rayma had been one of my best friends since we were in kindergarten. We even lived by each other out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but trees. Rayma and I spent most of our free time together, either riding our bikes in the woods, playing made-up adventure games in the woods, listening to music in the woods, eating pizza in the woods, or playing Pokemon on our Game Boys in the woods. It's pretty much safe to say that about 75% of our time together was spent in the woods outside our houses. As Rayma and I were walking down the hallway, he said, "Dude, you should have seen Mr. Myers' face as he ran off. He looked peeved. I would not want to be you come Monday's class." I gulped. I always seem to forget that I would eventually have to go back to class. Luckily, it was Friday, and I would get a couple days away from Mr. Myers' math class. Yeah, well, I don't know how he expects us to focus, especially when some of us have more pressing matters to deal with, I blurted out. You mean Turkina, Rayma said. The ghost turkey that the older kids were telling us about on the bus this morning. You didn't really believe that story, did you? I mean, what kind of name is Turkina anyway? Wasn't the turkey in the story supposed to be a dude? Turkina could be a dude's name. I wasn't sure about this. I just knew I wanted the day to be over. Luckily, the rest of the day seemed to fly by. When the final bell rang, I gathered up my stuff from my locker and headed off to my bus stop. As the bus pulled up, I was finishing up the apple I was eating. Afternoon, I told my bus driver. She said nothing and shut the door after me. One day she'll say good morning. One day I'll break her, I thought to myself. Not today, though. Not today. As I slid to the back of the bus, I could make out the top of my buddy's hair. Yo, Rayma, what's up? I could tell he was deep in a conversation with one of the high school students in the back of the bus, since he didn't even seem to notice I had gotten on. Well, if it isn't Johnny Appleseed, said Brian. Brian was one of the high schoolers that Rayma was talking to as I approached my seat. Got any seeds for me to plant a tree in my yard? You're so clever, Brian. I'm totally Johnny Appleseed because I'm eating an apple, I replied sarcastically. Well, Mr. Seed, I just made a bet with your little friend here. He seems to think that Turkina isn't real, and that I'm nothing more than a liar. I told him to put his money where his mouth is, and I told him that if he's so sure I'm a liar, that you two would have no problem spending the night in the woods. That doesn't seem too crazy. What did you two bet? I asked. Our seat's at the back of the bus if I'm a liar, and your guys' Game Boys if I ain't. My what? What? I was feeling sick all of a sudden. Surely Brian had misspoke. Drew, relax, Rayma said. There's no way Brian and his goons could possibly be telling the truth about Turkina. We're constantly in the woods, other than a few wild turkeys here and there, and a couple stray cats and the occasional raccoon. The woods is empty of any ghostly creatures. Come Monday morning, you'll be thanking me for making this bet when we're sitting in our new seats in the back of the bus. Monday morning? I asked. Are you implying that we're spending the night in the woods tonight? There's no way my parents are letting... I've already got it all planned out, Rayma interrupted. I'll tell my parents I'm spending the night at your house, and you'll tell your folks that you're spending the night at my house. This was not going to work. Something was going to go wrong. But what was I to do? My Game Boy was on the line, and Brian was not the type of guy you negotiate with. When I got home from school, I ran to my room and began to pack. I still had a couple of hours before my mom would get home, and I thought it would be best to leave a note instead of trying to lie to her face. It was best not to take any chances with my Game Boy at stake. I had just gotten the new Zelda game, and I'd be darned if that greasy jerk Brian would get to play it before me. Well, somewhere between deciding what issues of Spider-Man to pack and what types of soda went best with ghost hunting, the doorbell rang. Raymond must have packed at lightning speed. I hadn't expected him for another hour or so. "Coming!" I yelled. As I opened the door, I was greeted by a giant ghostly bird. "Bones!" said the bird. "Yeah! Ooh! Ah!" I screamed myself awake. "Where am I?" I asked the darkness. "We're in the woods, dude," a friend across from me whispered. "Do you mind keeping it down? Some of us are trying to sleep." Oh, thank goodness. Turkina was a dream. Rayma and I had actually had an uneventful evening in the woods before we decided to go to sleep for the night. But just then, as I began to relax after my frightful dream, I heard the crackling, the twisting, the snapping of twigs all around me. Rayma and I were no longer alone. Little orange lights were becoming visible in the woods around us, and whatever was out there was getting closer. "Ray!" I whispered. No response. "Ray!" I whispered a little louder. It was useless. Rayma had already taken off in the direction away from the orange lights. As I decided to take a page out of Rayma's book and run, a hand, or possibly a wing, clamped down on my shoulder. It wasn't a wing, though. And when I turned around to face the orange lights, it was not a ghostly turkey staring at me. Oh, how I would have given anything for it to be Turkina. Anything but my mom. Both my parents and Rayma's parents had come out searching for us. Apparently, Rayma had forgotten to pack his inhaler, and his mom had stopped by to drop it off. Well, imagine her surprise when Rayma wasn't there, and our little lie had fallen apart. Our parents grabbed the closest thing to a flashlight they could find, which were a pair of those novelty pumpkin flashlights for trick-or-treaters, and bolted towards the woods in search of us. "True Colclasure!" my mother bellowed. "Just what the heck do you think you were doing sneaking off into the woods late at night and lying to us about where you were? Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in? It's bad enough your math teacher calls me at work this afternoon, but this is a whole nother level of trouble." Mr. Meyer called my mom? What a weasel, I thought to myself. "Hold on, where's Rayma?" his mom asked me. "Oh, yeah, he took off when he heard you guys coming and saw your orange lights. He went that way through those trees. I think he thought you guys were Turkina." "Turkina?" my mother asked. "You mean the ghost turkey from that 70s movie? Oh my." "Oh my," Rayma's mom chuckled as Rayma came creeping back to camp. "Have you boys been watching scary movies again?" "No." "Turkina is the ghost that haunts these woods and eats pilgrims. Those older boys on the bus told us that he's out here looking for his bones from the first Thanksgiving. Sorry, you two, but that's the plot to a cheesy horror movie from the 70s. I think those kids were just messing with you," my mom said. "So, does that mean we're still in trouble?" I sheepishly asked. "Oh, you're still in trouble, mister. In fact, you're going to wish I was Turkina after I get through with you," my mom replied. "I already do," I whispered to myself. The following 4 weeks went by as expected. The high schoolers had a good laugh at Rayma and me when they found out what happened, and Mr. Meyer was of course still a boring weasel. However, I did decide to sign up for home ec class in the spring. Turns out they get to make some pretty cool stuff. Oh, and the bus driver still won't say good morning. One day I'll get her. one day.